equipment, this LBEs and this straps and harnesses and all the stuff from the Marines. We'd bring this big pile of stuff into the parachute loft, and we'd explain to the rigger what we wanted, what to carry and how it would look and how it would fit, and it was all custom built to us. This is before London Bridge, this is before all of the fancy equipment.
Damn.
The fancy equipment happened because of the SEAL teams. All those guys and all that equipment, because we kept...
Okay, guys, this is about where we left off. So, again, about an hour, we'll go into this. So, let me go ahead and time this down. Very, very, well, I mean, I guess I really don't have to. It's pretty relevant when it's going to run out, but very, very, very interesting, just like all of them. The dude is freaking on another level. He's intelligent as... So, I hope you guys enjoyed this, man.
So the SEAL teams in the 90s, we were getting the old Marine Corps throwaway equipment. And we would take that equipment into the parachute loft and have those guys sew it all up. The guys that sew the parachutes. And I'm explaining a little bit for the civilians out there that don't know what a parachute loft is. But basically, there's a bunch of guys in there that sew the parachutes and fix the parachutes with these big machines. So we would take all the old equipment, this LBEs and this straps and harnesses and all the stuff from the Marines. We'd bring this big pile of stuff into the parachute loft, and we would explain to the rigger what we wanted, what to carry and how it would look and how it would fit, and it was all custom built to us. This is before London Bridge, this is before all of the fancy equipment.
Damn.
The fancy equipment happened because of the SEAL teams. All those guys and all that equipment, because we kept modifying everything. Everything we did, we modified. And so the modifications were so intense and so good. Some of those parachute riggers and some of the SEAL team guys that were parachute riggers that were doing it, they went after the teams, they went and they built companies.
So there was literally, what was the, I mean, this is like the complete opposite of when I showed up. When I showed up, we had
100%.
everything.
We had no money, we had no nothing.
The Marine Corps had more funding, or the Marine...
That's funny. Once again, I never served, but my best friend, who's like my cousin, well, he is my cousin. He married my cousin, so it's part of the family, but he served in the Marines, and he was a networker, and he had always told me that the Marines, even though like they're one of the most badass, branches of the military, they always got like the hand-me-downs from like the Army, almost like, the second child, the middle child, always getting the hand-me-down shit from, every other, either special force or, branch of the military. They were always getting the hand-me-down shit and, always having to put in, requests to have this fixed, that fixed. And so what Sean Ryan, this gentleman right here, is saying is, of course, when he went in, they're fully funded getting, the top of the line equipment that they needed, while it's kind of like still the same for the Marines, from my understanding. So that's kind of ironic. Let me make sure it's recording. Okay, just got to make sure it's recording.
I mean, when I showed up, there was no budget. It appeared to me there was zero budget.
Well, it was less budget than we had. It was more budget than we had before that. So the Marines had more equipment, better stuff, because they're combat. They're like Rangers for us, for the Navy. The Navy SEALs were on our own, and we're funded through SOCOM and all the other stuff. The Marine Corps has its own funding, so they buy whatever they want. We get all our funding from SOCOM and the Big Navy. Big Navy hates us. They don't give us any money. So back in those days was before the glamour SEALs and before it was really like the Hollywood stuff and everybody thought SEALs were awesome. Back then, SEALs were still pretty cool, but we never talked about being SEALs either. If we were in a bar and we're not in Coronado where everybody kind of knows, or Virginia Beach where everybody kind of knows, when we were anywhere else, we tried not to be SEALs. Nobody wore any SEAL team gear. And if anybody asked us, hey, what are you guys doing here? What are you up to? There was always cover stories. There was always stuff we would say. And it was like balloon pilot training,
Yeah.
It was a good
dolphin waxer.
Yeah. We had weird stuff we would say, and we'd talk about that. And some guys would say, oh, yeah, I'm a Navy SEAL, and they'd wear this stuff. But most guys didn't. We'd wear it around Coronado and something, or your team, because we were proud of your team, the hats and stuff, but not very much. It's nothing like it is today. And there was books, but there wasn't like a lot of books.
Yeah.
And so there was maybe 20 books. And everybody gives all the SEALs crap about writing all these books, you know? But they even give me crap about writing the book that I wrote. But the book that I wrote has nothing to do with the SEALs, really. And it's not me bragging, it's me just telling. Like if I ever wrote, and a lot of the books that SEAL team guys write is leadership and stuff. Jocko wrote some book and it's about some stuff. And there's all these guys writing these books, but it's not a whole lot of SEAL team stuff. So everybody gives us crap for writing books is because we write books because we have a lot of knowledge and experience and we did things that not a lot of people do.
Money.
Yeah.
And we're able to put it down on paper and make it make sense, and it turns into a recipe for people to do better in their lives. Well, what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
And if you're
it's
a doctor,
the same concept as a show.
It's the same thing. It's freaking ridiculous that SEALs are somehow under a microscope, that you guys write too many books. Well, you don't give crap to all the doctors that write books or the lawyers that write books or anybody. If you have a profession that's very focused, all those guys that have that profession, they all write books. I don't get that part of it.
I
But
think
why-
that,
I don't know why
I don't
I'm so
think it has
tired about
anything to do with people writing the book. I think it has more to do with they weren't the one to write the book.
Or just jealous, yeah, just jealous.
You know.
Pure jealousy. Or the fact that somebody's making some money off of something that we all do.
Yeah.
Like most of the books that we write, guys write on leadership, even the McRaven book, when you start going through all the stuff, it's like, that's all the stuff that we all do. You know, we just didn't write it down. That's all. So we all have the knowledge and the stuff that we do. Like I was telling you about polishing a turd. Back in the SEAL teams in the 90s, we did have to polish the turds. That was the Quonset huts in Nyland. Did you go to Nyland?
We did.
Yeah, so you know the building they have in Nyland right now. So I was there before that building, and it was all Quonset huts and these old crappy metal buildings from World War II. They were given to us by the Army or something. But so, and these things were like basically dirt floors and those metal racks where there were bunk beds. And we had to have people sleep in the top and bottom bunk in those days. And it was just terrible. It was just crap.
What kind of mission set was there pre 9/11?
It was a lot of FID. It was a foreign internal defense was like one of the main missions, you know, and it's a valuable mission that we kind of laxed off on a lot.
Where?
Every country in the world. You know, SEAL Team 4 would do South America, all the special ops. In South America, SEAL Team 4. SEAL Team 2 had all of Europe and Northern Europe. SEAL Team 3 had the Middle East. SEAL Team 1, we had the Far East, so the Philippines and Thailand and the fun stuff. SEAL Team 3 had Middle East with the other guys, and they did a little bit of stuff in India and getting that far. So they went Middle East to India and over into there. Sometimes they did Australia and some other places. But every team had a specific geographical location that we worked in. And then, which was great because I went to Thailand a few times. And so the Thai SEALs, I got to know them. And we were working with them enough, and it was all the same guys. And it made a really good camaraderie between us and the Thai SEALs. We were giving them tactics and procedures and stuff that we could share with them. And then they were getting better at their job and becoming better friends with Americans. So they no longer saw us as ugly Americans. We were like, hey, those are the Americans, they're cool, they taught us stuff. So FID was very good. And the world peace is not going to be done through war, it's going to be done through FID.
Amen.
It'll be done through us cooperating with other groups
Amen.
and communicating and working with them. That's how you make peace. You don't make peace by bullets. And that's where we were better back then because we were very aware of all the stuff going on. We were there also spread really far out. So if something did happen anywhere, you could immediately have a SEAL team platoon within like 20 or 30 minutes from being on target. And that was another one of the missions.
Did
But
that
now-
ever happen
Yeah.
to you?
A few times almost, but then the damn net guys or somebody else high speed would come out and get it.
Oh.
And so it kind of pisses off. You're like,
What-
those
what would-
guys.
Can you talk about what one of those would have been?
There
like
was
what was popping
rescues and stuff.
Panama?
I went to Panama a couple times. I was there a little bit after, but Panama team guys were there and Damn Neck was there and it was big. So that was a bigger one. But there was a lot of little ones that would happen that if it went on long enough, then they would get somebody else to do it. And the Marines would also get those missions before the SEALs sometimes, back in those days, you know, because it was more their mission to do that real fast stuff because they're an expeditionary force, which everybody loses and they don't understand what that really means. What that means is the Marines are a package of everything. They don't need anybody. They have all the airplanes, boats, they have all the artillery, they have everything they need to fully go and be there, plop, and they can do all of it. SEALs can't, we need them. So we need the Marines more than Marines need us. We need the Army more than the Army needs us. We need the Navy more than the Navy needs us. But we're a pretty awesome group because we did start specializing into stuff. And that's when you start going into damnet missions, some of the other stuff. The beach reconnaissance mission from World War II is why we even started. It was about beach recon and about us doing water work. And we got away from that. Now, the beach recons we've been doing since World War II and saving lives. So as a ship pulls up or LCAC or any of the landing craft or anything that's going on, as they pull up to the beach, they would hit the coral reefs or whatever. And they thought that now that we're on ground, and they'd put down the ramp and everybody would just run off the end of the ramp and go into 50 feet deep water and drown.
Oh my God.
And so that was when they said, we need to have somebody out here. And so that's the sneaky peeky UDT guys.
Like the gradients of the
And so,
freaking...
and even them, I would raise my hand and say, this isn't the way to do it. So we've been doing beach reconnaissance in World War II. And when I was at SEAL Team 1, I came up with a way to do the beach gradients. So do you remember doing beach gradients when you did the hydrographic recons during
yeah.
So how did you figure out the beach gradients?
We had a lead line.
A 3-foot lead line.
I don't remember how long it was.
No, I'm talking about the gradient. I'm not talking about in the water. When you get out of the water, you can't do a lead line anymore. So you have to figure out, when you get on the beach, a lot of these beach craft, especially the LCACs and the...
I don't remember ever actually
Okay,
doing
so
that.
we get out of the water, you hit the actual beach. Now the beach can be this deep, and it can be this deep, it can be really shallow, almost nothing. Now if you have an LCAC can't land on the beach that's more than like a 1-to-4 ratio or something. So it's 1 foot up and 4 that way. It's pretty shallow. It's not a real steep beach. Some of the other craft can want steeper ones because if LCAC tries to get on a really steep beach, it's going to go up there and fall off, and go up and fall off. It can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that beach gradient is very important to tell them what they can actually do when they get to the beach. So it's a very important thing. The way we've been doing it since World War II was what we trained during BUDS. We say, well, that beach gradient, and they tell you, and they show you kind of what they look like, and then we just kind of guess. Okay. And so I came up with an exact method to really show what the gradient really is.
Well,
and I
how'd
said,
you do that?
It's not very hard. I said, when we go up on the beach and you do it, what you need to do is you need to get your weapon and mark off, and it was about 3 feet was the site. You get a 3-foot marker. It can be on your lead line, it can be on a weapon, a piece of tape, or your spot in your weapon. And what you do is you kneel down and you sight that spot up the beach until you can see where the sand meets that mark. And you have somebody mark that mark. Then what you do is you go from that mark, from where you sat, kneel down, you pace off from there.
This is just a good example of how fucking smart he is. I mean, it was a simple solution to something that was, you know, how they always say, God, now I'm going to forget the saying, but, you know, when you just make things harder than what they need to be, and he found a simple solution to an age-old problem. Like, you know, how many of our, you know, veterans have drowned because, you know, not an amphibious type of military vehicle, but, you know, they get close, they hit coral, they hit, you know, a sandbar, and they're like, oh, okay, you know, exit. They go off, and, I mean, these guys are wearing 80, 90-pound equipment. I mean, the last thing you're expecting is, okay, maybe, you know, I'll hit, you know, and be 3 feet submerged while I, you know, get up this, you know, sandbar portion, or, you know, while I get up this beach. And then when they find out that they're sinking 50 fucking feet deep is deep. And by the time they realize it, trying to, you know, get rid of that gear, oh my God. And not only that, like, it's just stupid shit that I know, and I hate that I know it, but I've never put myself in a position to be in that position, if this makes sense. But drowning is my biggest fear. I always tell people, like, you know, people are like, oh no, you know, getting lit on fire would be worse. And I agree, they're both messed up, but, you know, at least when you're on fire, your body's going to go into cardiac arrest and shock, and then you're going to stop feeling the pain. Then you're just going to, you know, unfortunately unless you're a diver and you get nitrous toxicity, you know, and then a lot of the guys, they take out their breather and then they start breathing in, you know, the seawater, thinking, because, you know, they're pretty much high and stoned, you know, off this point, they don't really realize it. But when you're in the heat of the moment like that and you're drowning in 50 feet water, it takes longer to die in salt water than it does fresh water. The salinity of the salt does something to your lungs to where you don't die as quickly. And that to me, like drowning to me would just be, oh my God, the absolute worst way to go. Just my opinion. And I'm a great swimmer. I mean, you know, I never had a desire. I mean, I had a huge desire before I ever got into music to be, you know, to go to the FBI and, you know, do training like that. I mean, you know, I was a great diver, but man, I would be so leery, you know, getting off, you know, some type of boat without any beach gradients, knowing, okay, this is exactly how far I have to go, especially if I'm carrying, you know, even sometimes those packs go up, you know, past $100 and they're strapped to you. They're not meant to, you know, come off unless you're, you know, going off. But by the time you realize, oh shit, I'm sinking, and then you start panicking and stuff with gloves and, you know, helmet and all this shit. I mean, yeah, nope, not for me.
One pace is 3 feet, 2 paces is 6 feet, and you go all the way up to there. So you're doing a 3-foot measurement here, and then you're pacing off, and you just divide it. That's your beach gradient.
Interesting.
So if it's a 1 to 10 beach, you go, it was 3 feet, and I did 10 paces. So it's 1 to 10. And it's almost an exact beach gradient. They never had that before. It's in the books right now in War Company training manuals as a Beck method for determining beach gradients.
And you came up with that?
Yeah, because
That's cool,
from
man.
World War II all the way up until I came along, everybody said, well, this is the way we do it. That's a 1 to 10, that's a 1 to 20, that's a 1 to 40. I go, yeah, but did you measure it? How'd you measure it? They're guessing. I gave them an exact method.
Damn.
So why didn't anybody think of that before? It's because I'm kind of a troublemaker, and I raised my hand and said, well, we need to be able to measure that. And so I sat down and I thought about it, and I figured it out. I said, it's just this. And I said, we already do pace counts. Just use your pace count and measure it, eyeball.
Wow.
And the simple things like that people just take for granted because they say, this is the way we do it, let's keep doing it. Well, there might be a better way out there, you know? Don't tell me how to do it, tell me what you need. And that's the problem right now in politics and everything else, is everybody's telling everybody, and nobody's actually looking at it and scratching below the surface. You know, okay, so that's team one, right? Did all that at team one.
What was we don't have to go through everything. You have a long career, but I am very
But
interested.
I'm giving you like the reasons why I never had to ask for orders. Okay. I was recruited to every command. It was because of that.
You were specifically recruited to every single command that you went to.
I never volunteered for anything. I was asked to go everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. So SEAL Team 1, I did that. I picked it because they gave me a choice. So I didn't ask for it. I said, I want Team 1. They gave it to me. When I was at Team 1, I was doing stuff like that with the beach gradient. I was also doing really heavy mission planning. I was doing all the photo and intel stuff. I was really heavy into it, and I was really good at it. And everybody knew it. So if they ever wanted to have a mission, they had to plan a mission to get me. If they ever wanted to win an event for the Raging Rhinos, did you guys do, you were East Coast, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I just did that. I knew you were East Coast. Did you guys do Raging Rhinos every Friday and have a keg of beer at the end?
We called them Monster Mashes.
Monster Mash, same thing. Raging Rhino, Monster Mash, and a keg of beer at the end every Friday. So if anybody ever wanted to win that, if we had shooting involved or anything where it was athletic and shooting and everything all combined, if they wanted to win, they got me. Every officer knew that. If you were on your platoon, if I went to your platoon, then I would take you from like a C or D rating, and you would be an A1 rating as soon as I showed up. I had every qualification. And the reason I had every qualification is because I knew the SEAL team platoon commanders knew it. We need this qual. If we send him, free fall jump master, for example, how many SEAL team guys failed out of free fall jump master? It's a hard course. And we needed that qualification for our platoon. So LT said, hey, Beck, we need to send you free fall jump master. And I was like, all right, I'll go. And why did they send me? Because they knew I could pass. And we needed the qual. And it happened in every platoon. So we need the qual, Beck, go do that qual. And I would get it, and I had it under my belt, and the platoon is A1 now. We can deploy, or C1, or whatever the number is.
Damn.
But they would automatically bring it off the platoon to deployable status.
It's weird.
So
I mean,
it
you're
was
telling me
valuable.
this, and I'm thinking, like, this guy's arrogant to be telling me that he's the best at, you know what I mean?
Who, me? No, I'm just telling you.
And
that
then,
I'm
but
test.
it makes
I can
what I'm
test.
saying is it makes perfect sense.
No, but I can test.
It's
I told
not
you that.
arrogance. It makes perfect sense.
I just test.
Yeah.
You know? And so because I had all the qualifications, I was requested a lot. And so now with the mission planning I was an intel guy in the first 2 platoons, then I went to first lieutenant, engineering for you guys. Then I did some air stuff, then I did comms, and I did everything you could do in a platoon. All of it. I even did medical, and I wasn't medical trained. I was a secondary medical with a corpsman. What's IDC? Yeah. So we had an IDC corpsman, and then I was a secondary corpsman.
Corpsman's a doc for people.
Yeah, doctor. So I did all that stuff. And it was like, so I tried to do everything because I wanted to have qualifications, and I wanted to know exactly how to do everything any team guy could ever do. Even diving, I was a dive guy for a while, and dive soup and everything else. But when they were doing mission planning systems, I did a bunch of other stuff too, but they were doing mission planning systems at the headquarters, and it was called SWAMPS, Special Warfare Automated Mission Planning System. And a lot of you guys out there, your SEALs, you remember SWAMPS. So the warrant officer that was in charge of the SWAMPS program gave this company, California Microwave, and some of this stuff is coming back right now. I'm going, holy cow, how do I remember that? They gave them like $10 or $12 million to automate mission planning. And so they were building this system with all these computers and all this stuff. And remember, 1998, 99, 2000, computers were not a big deal. You know, we didn't have any computers in the SEAL teams. We used a lot of dry erase, not even dry erase, it was wax pencils with the lamination paper over a blank piece, you know? And I made those special too, and everybody worked with those. It was such a bad program, and it was so terrible that I started on, because I built my own computers too, on the side. I would buy all the parts, and I would build computers, and I would give them to people, you know, sell them to people. So I built all my own computers, and they all knew I did that. They knew I was a freaking weirdo. So the warrant officer called me up down to SEAL Team 1 and said, hey, Beck, I'd like you to come up here to WARCOM and work with me on mission planning. And I was like, well, I've been at SEAL Team 1 for 9 years now, and I was going to go to another command anyway, so yeah, that's cool. And so I went to WARCOM. I went to the headquarters to do a mission planning system. The admiral and everybody sitting around the table, and this is when I was building, every weekend I would go home, and on weekends I was building the program that I was going to try to use because these guys were failing. So at the final thing, the final mark, when they were saying, you have to make this thing work or the contract is void. We're not going to continue this. So I built mine all up. And so these guys are sitting in a California Microwave, and they had Windows up, and it was like Windows 98 or the other one, or it was an old Windows. No, it wasn't 98. It was the special one they made for businesses. Can't remember what it's called now. But they had the stuff up there, and they had the board up there, and they're showing it, and they're going, here's the mission planning system, SWAMPS, the automated mission planning system for SEALs. And they start the computer up, and they start doing some stuff on it, and then boom, blue screen of death. And they said, well, wait a second, and they restart, and they do all the stuff, and they start doing it again, and like 5 minutes later, blue screen of death. And the admiral's sitting there, and all the captains, and it was a huge, Gus Gussentine, I think, was there too, and Gus was awesome. I got to tell you a story about him. But, well, something he said that was very, very valuable, it reminded me of that. But, so we're all sitting around a table and watching these guys just fail brilliantly. And I said, hey, weren't Wells, and I was like, you know, can I plug in, and while they're trying to fix their stuff, they can go on the side and work on their stuff. Can I plug in and just show you some stuff? And nobody's seen it yet. And so I plug in and I go, hey, here's a automated mission planning system for you. And I went, bloop, bloop, bloop. And I started typing in there. I said, what kind of mission do you want to do? And one of the captains was like, direct action, and use some explosives, and have a boat insert, and then infill by foot, DIA explosives, get out of there by foot, get picked up by a vehicle. And it was, he just started rattling off a bunch of stuff. And I was sitting there just typing in, going, pulling stuff down with mouse, just, and going, okay, what are we blowing up? He says, and I said, let's use 5 pounds of explosives. And it went boom on the map, and I had maps and everything. And so map went boom, this ring showed up. I said, here's a safety ring, there's a margin, make sure we're out of here by the time the countdown goes on. And all the stuff was just flashing up there, going boom, 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 boom. I said, okay, ready for the, let's do the brief back. And that's a brief back is a briefing we give before the PLO, before the platoons, to make sure that we can accept this mission to the high commands, the captains and admirals. So the brief back, I said, okay, let's do a brief back. And it's like 3 slides, like bloop, 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 and went, okay, let's do the brief back. And PowerPoint shows up, has all the stuff on it, and I start briefing the brief back. I said, okay, let's do a PLO. And I go, and I said, okay, this is now 12 slides because I have to do more stuff because now we have to teach the platoon guys what the mission was to make sure they get all the stuff. I said, okay, warning order. Here's a warning order. Here's a brief fact. Here's a PLO. Here's all the stuff. And I said, automate it. And the company was sitting there just going, they were just like, they just couldn't believe it. And it was totally done. And I said, this is awesome. I was like, oh yeah, we have a library too. And I showed them a library of data. And I said, it's all divided by the jobs that each platoon guy has. And I've done all these jobs, so I know what we need. I said, so it had folders. So it was a full system of folders. And each folder started out as first lieutenant / engineering. And then you open that folder up, and it was everything you ever need in there for all the boats, maritime ops, all of it. You go to air ops, you go to diving, you go to comms, you go to each one of them had a folder and everything you ever need. There was a sniper folder, there was a demo folder, everything you would do in a platoon was in a folder. And so they said, okay, the admiral's sitting there just going, what do we do now? So they killed the contract, the company was fired, they lost everything, and I think they folded pretty quick after that. And then we got all the money. And then basically they went, here, $10 million to an E6, Kristin Beck. And so I started running the program. And I ran the program, and I was hard on those guys. It was Master Chief Bill Hill. He used to feed me all the time because I would work through lunch. So he would bring lunch for himself and me. Because I would go out to lunch, or I'd try to go to lunch, and I would he'd say, Beck, just eat this peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
So you're like the OG tech guy for the teams.
That's also why Damneck recruited me.
Damneck recruited you too, huh?
Yeah. So, like I said, I got recruited everywhere I went. So, the mission planning system was good. It was swamps. And then SOCOM saw it. And then SOCOM was like, well, we want this for everybody. So they changed it.
You developed this entire
in my garage at home on weekends. And then it was more of the concept and how to run it and how to do it. You don't want a fully automated system. You don't want AI or anything in there that's really automatic. If it's automatic, it'll fail. If it's automatic, you're going to kill everybody. Because if it's automatic, there's programs, there's logarithms, there's something in there.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I told him the whole thing automated, everything is just bad. You have to have a lot of people in between doing this and deciding. So while I was doing that, so I was typing a lot, was trying to feed the stuff that he was saying, plus what I knew and how to execute the mission. It has to be in there. You can't let a computer run that. The only thing I want the computer to do was take my data and stick it on a PowerPoint so I can brief it. So I had a lot of macros and things all built for that. But so work on Fire Dam, I got all the money. And then we started building the program, and Bill Hill and a few other guys. There was another Bill, and then it was madness. And I was an E6, and I made chief when I was there, because they gave me like an award for building the program. SOCOM saw it, they wanted it, so they changed the name of it, and we buffed it out. So I made a whole system for the Rangers. I made a system for Special Forces, and it was all different because I had to study those guys and pull the whole Ranger handbook and do a lot of stuff. And so I built the systems, gave them to them, even to the Air Force PJ guys. And then, so SOCOM was like, well, this is awesome, swamps. And I said, well, and they changed the name to a mission planning environment, something. Oh, Special Operations Mission Planning Environment, SOMPI. Did you ever do mission planning? Mm-hmm. Did you use SOMPI?
Yes.
Well, on most of those briefings, if you really dug into the metadata, my name was on every one of those. Because I hid metadata stuff. So even to this day, right now, 30 years later, my program I built in 1999 is still being used.
It's still being used today?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. At
that point, then, I'm doing all that stuff. And then I'm sitting there giving the brief on how to mission plan to all the Master Chiefs in the entire SEAL teams. All of them were in this one room. And they wanted to see what was going on, because this is the newest, flashiest tech thing. Mission planning. Bring out Chief Beck and have him brief mission planning. So I started briefing it. And I was showing them all the stuff, and these guys were blown away, and they were like, holy cow, this is awesome, because these are all the crusty old Master Chiefs, just like, they were amazed because I could get it so fast. So a mission plan would take 4 to 6 hours. I could do it in like 20 minutes, because it was all there, it was at my fingertips. So the Master Chiefs were just like, holy cow, this is awesome. And a bunch of them started saying, when are you up for orders, on my team? And so they all started saying that. And then they were saying, hey, stay, because we're going to go over detailing and some other stuff that Master Chief, and you're a chief, so you should know some of this stuff. So I stayed with them in the afternoon during their briefing when they were doing the detailing, when they were showing how detailing and everything works. So the big Master Chief from Tennessee, from the big thing, he was sitting there talking about detailing, and one of the other Master Chief says, well, do an example and show us how this works. He says, well, hey, Chief Beck, you mind if we pull up your data? And then we show them all the stuff you have, and we find out how can we detail you. And I was like, okay. And so he put all my data up on the screen, and I started going through it. So they saw my ASVAB scores, which I aced. They showed all my stuff in BUDS, 24-minute run and all the other stuff. They showed all the stuff I've done and all my qualifications. And all of them were going, holy cow, it's a hard charger. And so they started asking for me. And so Team 5 Master Chief said, hey, I want you to come to Team 5 and take a platoon. I need a chief. I was like, okay. So they did me orders right there as I was sitting down because I said okay to SEAL Team 5 Master Chief. So I went to SEAL Team 5. So I met SEAL Team 5 in middle of 2000, and that's when I had Dave Goggins as a new guy and a couple other ones. But so I was at Team 5 as a chief. I'd ride my Harley into Team 5 compound. I'd have somebody standing there, or if I could, I'd have somebody to open the door for me through the back gate. I'd ride my Harley right into the compound, take a right, and go to the Quonset hut that we had. Oh yeah, we were in Quonset hut at Team 5 at the time too. So we had the little steel buildings, the old crappy buildings, before they tore them all down and built the beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
So I'd ride my Harley in there and park it right in front of the door to my platoon hut. You know, every day I'd ride my Harley right on base, right in through the gate, and right by the door. So it was pretty funny. And everybody saw it, and they were like, oh, that's just back, whatever. It was a Kickstart, 1960 Harley. It was a panhead. The panhead that belonged to Rocky Carlock. Did you ever hear any stories about Rocky Carlock?
I didn't.
Yeah, he was a wild man. He was probably the cruelest, like hardcore, not cruelest, but the most hardcore buds instructor that probably ever lived. He was hardcore. Then he became a police officer in El Cajon, I think, or over there somewhere. But it was just the way I was running stuff. And it was pretty hard even when I was at Team 5, you know, on the new guys. So David Goggins in the beginning really hated my guts because I would make them do stuff that they didn't really know what I was doing it for. So in our area, we had lockers and stuff, and I wouldn't let them use their lockers. So they had to live out of pair bags. I said, you guys can have pair bags in here and have them all there, but figure it out. You know, you can't use lockers. You guys are new guys. You haven't earned them yet. And that was the only thing I'd say to them. You didn't earn them yet. But I wanted them to learn the pair bag stuff and how to do that. So when we had to do flyaway missions or do something really hardcore, they didn't know what I was doing, but I was trying to teach them the exact gear you needed and how to pack it and make it executable. So you can go out really fast out on mission. If you have this huge lockers like we have now, tell a guy right now to go in there and tell them the mission we have to do and be ready in 30 minutes. They're going to have a tough time. There's too much stuff. There's too much area. They haven't learned discipline of packing a bag and have it there set and all your primary gear ready to rock and roll so you can quickly throw it in the bag and go. Now, damn that they do it pretty good because we do have it set up pretty well like that. And we have to because of our contingency programs, you know, but that's all like testing and stuff like that. So because DAMNEC is only a development group, they only experiment on equipment. So we just have to fly away really fast to experiment on stuff. So that's why. But so Goggins was just, they were all pissed that I was making the new guys live out of these bags. And so after, I don't remember, it was like a couple of weeks or a month or whatever. And I said, yeah, use your lockers now. And I said, this is what's going on because we have to get through these missions. You got to be able to go out fast. And then we have to go right now, pack up and get out. And the guy's like, all right. And the new guys are already waiting outside and all the old guys are in there looking through lockers and trying to find stuff and totally disorganized. An hour later, all the old guys are there meeting the new guys. And the new guys are laughing. Now they know why I did it.
Damn.
You know what I mean?
I
and so
knew.
stuff like that. I would also make these guys do ruck marches.
I mean, it
And
carried
so
out because that's how I organized my locker, and I didn't just come up with that
You
myself.
had to. You know, if you
so-
didn't, you were just disorganized and it would take too much time. And so it was things I would do as a chief that were kind of like, man, what a jerk. But it was like, it wasn't really to be a jerk. It was because these are things that I learned over the years. And it was like, you really need to do that. And you guys are new guys. You don't get it yet. And this is all new equipment for you. So learn the equipment, learn your bags, and get all organized and be ready to rock and roll. You know, that was the lesson.
Yeah.
And it was a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I also had them doing ruck marches and ruck humps and stuff, you know, with 30 pounds a lot. And it was before the war. This is all before the war. And after it really kicked off, those guys were like just saying thank you. It was like, because we started doing ruck humps and we were carrying a lot of shit, you know? And so they were like, well, now we know why you were doing that. And I was like, all right. But now the teams we've been in a war so long that they do a lot of that stuff anyway. But the 90s teams it was a little different. It was a little looser, you know? Because
Yeah.
it wasn't the mission. We weren't at war,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, it makes sense.
So that's Team 5. I left Team 5 and I went to a special projects group. And I was there for a year and a half, I think. And I was there doing sneaky peeky stuff. It was all plumber work, you know. And then
Can you talk about it at all?
It was bugs and electronics and video and surveillance and disguises and
Is this like the ASAP?
Yes.
This is crazy what he says. I wasn't expecting this at all when he had said this. I was like, wow, really? Like, they still have, I mean, not that it surprised me, and I don't know why I said they still have, but they have the capability of doing this. So, check this out.
Program?
Yeah.
Okay.
ASOT, ASOC, and all those. It was before the SEALs had their own program. We started a special projects group to build the program and to start doing it ourselves. Because before that, we had to go to the Army and use all their stuff. You know what I mean? Before
Yeah,
that, it was
so
all Army.
this program was, I thought this program was just, what year is this? Around
This
02,
is
03?
02, 03.
Man, I loved that project.
Yeah. It was a lot of cool
I mean,
stuff.
I didn't get to at the level you were at, but
Yeah.
I had heard about it, and we started doing some training with
It
some of
wasn't
the
at a
stuff.
huge level. There was a couple of guys there with definitely, they were better at it than me, and it was more because of me, more because of who I was. I wasn't always the best at that at that time. It was because I was still coming out of the platoons, and I still had that.
You didn't
I
switch
was
the mindset?
Yeah, I didn't do great. I did great in pieces of it. I had a couple of things I did there that were awesome.
Can you
But-
describe the difference between being in something like that and a regular platoon?
Okay,
for
regular
the
platoon,
audience.
Yeah. So if you go into special projects, and there's a lot of them. Special projects could even be the triathlete guys. You know, that's different. It's a special project. So if you're in a platoon, all you are is a frogman. You're shooting and looting, and you're working all the time and training, and all you're training for is that mission. It's a mission of a direct action, a rescue, hydro recon. It's mission focused. Special projects are all the things outside of those mission focuses that are very specialized, that you still need that set of skills to even be able to do the stuff that we're doing outside of those skills. And so that would be like the real deep water stuff and the sneaky stuff. Like if I was to destroy a pipeline that goes from Russia into Europe or something, I would be really good at that. I could do it so easy. It wouldn't even be a thought in my mind. It would be done. Just tell me to do it. 2 hours later, the thing's gone. Anywhere along there. If I want to shut down all the communications on the entire eastern coast of the United States, I could do that with one bomb. And it would have to be a very big one. I could do it with like 2 pounds of C4. That's special projects.
Yeah.
It's taking our skill set and doing something that's so far outside of our skill set. And so before I even went there, I already went through some agency courses, CIA courses. So I did target analysis and a few other ones. So I was already introduced to the CIA, which some team guys are, not all team guys. And so I started really getting into that, like that target analysis.
Did you
and
like that better than the platoons?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because I lived in the woods.
Yeah.
I'm isolated, I'm alone. I always work better by myself. Even when I was in Afghanistan, I would just go off with a Terp and we'd do missions. It was me, you know, just, I always laugh when I watch that Black Hawk Down thing when the guy's riding a bicycle. And do you remember that one scene in Black Hawk Down? He's a sneaky guy and he rides a bicycle up and he's doing the stuff and all, you know, wearing the local attire and a big beard. Like if you look at me in local attire, it's like, yeah, I was good at it.
You have pictures of all this stuff.
Yeah, I got
Can I put
pictures of
them up?
everything.
Can you give them to me? I'll put them up.
Yeah, there's some pictures I can give you.
They'll be up.
But
right
it's not, and it does sound like I'm egotistical. I'm bragging about a bunch of stuff.
No, it doesn't.
But
It does not.
It sets up kind of why I even made it to Damnick, you know, to experiment with all that cool stuff. And the special projects of why I even got there was like you have a guy coming out of, you know, swamps and all the intel stuff, and every Master Chief on Earth knows me because of the stuff I'm doing. I go to Team 5. The biggest mistake I made at Team 5, I should talk about that because I really screwed up. It was bad. And I was in one of my platoons. And it's one of the things I'll never forgive myself for. Well, I forgive myself, but I don't let myself slide on. I'll never let it happen again. I was in Sri Lanka and I lost an AK-47.
And it sounds so menial. Now, his opening statement, I was in Sri Lanka, I lost an AK-47. Wait till you hear the rest of the story. It's just how well trained that these guys are that this just bothered him to no end. I mean, it's just, this is how well these guys are trained.
I was in Sri Lanka and I lost an AK-47.
I'm sure I'm still recording. Okay.
So, and I was the only one doing the mission. So I was there with all the Sri Lankan SEAL equivalents, and we were doing a across the beach thing, and it was just crushing waves. It was like, it was nuts. And I had an AK that wasn't mine, and it had a sling on it. And you know when you're swimming and you're in a really big ocean, your sling is your life to your weapon. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't my sling, and it broke. And so as soon as it went, it was like, whoosh, it went down in the ocean. And so I'm going up on the beach with all these Sri Lankans, and I finally meet up with some of the guys, and I'm like, dude, the AK's out there. And I said, I know kind of where it's at. And I said, I marked it from the spot on the beach. I know the parallel. I know kind of about how far out it was. And so I had a beach lane, I had a lane. And so we mark all the lanes, we start marking as much as we can up on the beach so we can do a search. And so this is dark, it's the middle of the night. So the next day we start doing searches and trying to find it because it's an area we can search, luckily. And I ended up, like, out of my own pocket, I rent scuba gear for the entire platoon because we didn't have dive gear out there. So we go into town, we find a bunch of gear, and we rent everything. And we're looking for it. It wasn't a whole platoon. I think I rented like 6 sets, I think. A few dive pairs to go out there and start doing Jack's Day searches. So I'm out there searching also just with snorkel, and I'm just diving, I'm just panicking. I'm just like, oh man, I can't believe this is happening. And I'm so pissed. And so days are going by, and it's just so like, and a third day, I think, and I'm just like pissed at everybody. I'm pissed at myself. And the whole platoon is like, I'm just scaring everybody because it's so like, mm-hmm. And you're just, and it's starting to piss him off, and it's starting to really get on them. And so they lose confidence in me. It's all like, it's just so bad. So I think I make up for that a little bit though, because everybody screws up. And so I'm beating them up, and I'm just like really bad. But I'm down there with snorkel, I'm just doing this in dark black. And I felt something that felt like seaweed, and it was like, and I grab it, and I'm like, and I wrap my hand on it, and it's the 1-inch tubular. That was a sling. So it's 1-inch tubular nylon, which is just a thin strap of that much. It's like a belt. So I feel that, and I start tugging on it, and get partway out of the ground. It's the AK, still hooked on the other end. And so I go up on the surface, and I start yelling, it's here, and I'm yelling out, and a few guys start converging on me, and now the current's pushing me off of it, and so everybody starts searching right around where I was, and I say, the strap, it's about this far out of the water now, just do this, and you guys are going to hit the strap and find it. So one of the guys finally hits the strap, and they pull it up out of the water and hold it above their head, got it! And I'm like, oh God. It's just such a relief, and it's all rusty and it's nasty, but it was under like sand, like this far. If it would have been one more day, it was gone, because it was like, I felt the strap was probably like that much. I pulled it out to about there, and then the other guy pulled it the rest of the way out of the sand. And but at this time, I'm like, it was just, I destroyed a lot of confidence, and I made the guys really look at me like I was a freaking idiot, Yeah. And
I had a similar experience.
And I didn't know what to do. And I was just like, well, that's the same thing that I had from growing up that those guys will never know. Maybe they don't know now, but it's no excuse.
Yeah.
I should have never let it get that much. And so my problem with my fear of failure, my intense fear of failing or making a mistake, it just totally killed me in that whole platoon. It just made it, because I was so mad at myself and so angry that none of those guys could even talk to me barely. And I was just so like I was like that all the time, like, I couldn't let it go. I went on for a couple of weeks, and then we went back to Guam, and then I shot over to Korea, I think. And then I was with all those guys in Korea with only a smaller group, and there was no officers there. It was just me in charge of the whole Korean expedition. And those guys were like, all right, well, Beck isn't such a jerk, and I still do good stuff, and so it started lightening up a little bit. But the officer in that platoon would never let it go. That guy hated my guts so bad, because he only has one chance at the platoon, mm-hmm. pretty much.
Yeah.
And it was his platoon, it was my platoon. But I'm the chief of the platoon. It's really my platoon.
Yeah.
You're a renter, you rent the locker. I own the lockers. I'm here for 9 years. You're here for a year and a half. Those officers have no ownership. The chiefs do. The chiefs own the teams.
Yeah.
And yeah, I screwed up. But then as soon as I started recovering a little bit, he wouldn't let it slide. He just kept hammering me because he hated me. And then after that was just, I couldn't recover because now that officer talked to all the other officers, and it burned me for pretty much any of the command structure of the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it happens. It was one mistake, and I screwed up worse after the mistake. But then I'm recovering, but now you won't let me. I asked for forgiveness, and you won't let me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't let it go. And to this day, that guy, like, if I see him, I just assume punch him in the face. But the funny part is that guy went down to JSOC, and they figured out who that guy was, and they hate him. They started having these really cruel, bad nicknames about this officer and really terrible. So that guy ended up muddying up his name so bad that he's just whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So everything catches up. If that guy would have let it slide because he was a good officer and would have said, hey, punish me and do whatever, and then let's get on with it. Let's get on with the business at hand, you know? But he wouldn't do that. And so it just said what kind of person that person was. You know what I mean?
I do.
And so if you're that kind of person deep in your soul, then it's going to show sometime. Well, it did show finally for that guy about 4 or 5 years later. But for me, it showed the opposite because I'm not that person. It was just a circumstance I was in for a very short period of my life, almost like all that trans stuff, you know? It was like I had a hiccup, and I had this time period where I was really messing up. But nobody helped me because I was a chief, and a chief doesn't need help. And so all the guys were just looking at me just going, what the heck? And the officers were just going, and I was in the middle just going, well, I'm chief and I should have done better. I didn't. I screwed up.
Yeah.
What can I do now to make it up? Well, you can't do anything to make it up. You're a chief. You should have known better. Well, dude, we're humans, man. Everybody messes up.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Even McCraven messes up. I don't want to talk about that one, but everybody messes up. And everybody that's a man, if you can man up to it, admit you messed up, you can fix it, you can do better next time. But if you're like that officer and you won't let it go, you know? I fear failure and I'm terrified of it, but if I do fail, I immediately try to, as fast as I can, I try to fix it.
Yeah.
And then I try to do better, and I won't do that again.
It always winds up coming back around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm at Team 5, and I get another platoon, I do that, and I start doing that. And then the E6, who I like a lot, Ernie, he made chief. So I've already been doing a full workup with the second platoon at Team 5, and the other one, they're giving me 2 chief slots. And so I'm in my second chief slot, kicking ass and doing great, and they all know it, you know, because I'm good, and I'm not that jerk, you know? And so this guy makes chief, and he makes it, and we still have a lot of workup left, and we have the whole deployment. You know, and you know the way the teams spin, we spin really fast. And so if he doesn't get his chief platoon right now, you know, he might not, it'll be really hard for him to get one, you know? And so I say, hey, I'll step down and I'll do something. I'm in talking to the master chief, and I say, hey, he made chief and we still have like 3 months left in the workup, and then we're deploying. I say, it just wouldn't be fair for me to take that opportunity from him when there's other things I can do, because I've already done a chief of a platoon, you know, I can do something else. He says, well, as a matter of fact, we're setting up squadrons, and we need a task unit chief. We want you to be task unit Charlie. And so I immediately leave that platoon, and then Ernie steps up, he's the chief, and I step in to be task unit Charlie, and the war starts.
This is my time frame.
Yeah, so now it's 2001, and now I'm a task unit chief. And I'm also the head of all of the crypto, so I'm the crypto custodian for the entire SEAL team.
For
and
the
they make
entire...
me, yeah, for all of SEAL Team 5, I'm crypto.
Okay.
And I also have charge of all of the non-SEAL deployable elements fall under me also as the, they called it the systems officer or something.
Can you describe
Combat systems officer or something.
Can you describe what crypto is to the civilian side of the audience?
So all communications, all of our radio traffic, all of our computer, everything, all traffic, if we have to send a signal out, it has to be encrypted. If it's not encrypted, you can catch it. We encrypt all the stuff, even civilians do it in companies between places, so that somebody in the middle can't grab it and get the intel. So the crypto for SEAL teams and for all of the military is incredibly sensitive, and it's incredibly classified. The equipment, just like during World War II, when we got a hold of the Enigma machine, you know, that's how important it is. In World War II, a British guy got a hold of one of the German Nazi Enigma machines. Once we got a hold of the machine, we can start taking it apart and analyze it and try to figure it out so we can break the code. So if you figure all of the crypto equipment we have is incredibly sensitive. And so you have to keep really super track of it. And you have to have a lot of other stuff. So it's double safe locked and all this other stuff. TPI, two-person integrity. And I'm the only one that has the combinations to the final crypto safe. Not even the captain of the team has it. I have all the stuff. Because you can't let anyone else have it. The only person above me that has it would have been the group CMS custodian, the guy that takes care of the crypto for 3 SEAL teams and all the boat squadrons, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the way we ran it.
Okay.
Oh, I also invented all the 3M stuff to automate 3M. Do you remember the 3M programs? We had to do all the maintenance, the Q1 checks and all that. So the big Navy has all these things. You have to do quarterly checks, you have to do weekly checks, you have to do daily checks on equipment. So you have your camera equipment, they have batteries in it. So if you're using the equipment a lot and the camera equipment, you have to do daily checks of your batteries to make sure your battery's all plugged in and doing that and that and that, and how to secure it and clean it and all that. So they used to make us do this stuff. And so I invented a whole way to do it really short and automated. And then I also made it so it was digital, so you didn't have to do it with pencils. And if you erased a sheet, you had to throw the whole sheet away, even if you were almost done. So if you did 99 marks on the sheet and you had 1 mistake mark, the whole thing is done. It's throw it away, start over. And so I made it automated and computerized, the whole system. And that was another weird one. So I did a lot of this stuff, and that's why people wanted me, because if there was a problem or something needed to be done, or if something was it was hard to use, just give it to me and I'll make it easy to use. The CNO of the Navy had a problem they're working on for the drug interdiction in the ocean. Was really, it's like, you can't do it. And a lot of it's coming from South America and these things. And so the CNO, they've been working on this problem for like 2 years. And so a captain that knew me knew that I did a lot of this stuff, and this weird stuff. And actually, this was at Damnick, though, so I'm jumping a little bit ahead. But this is a similar thing. So they called me in there and said, hey, you're pretty good at this stuff. Here's the problem. They drew it all up on the board. They showed me everything I had to do. I says, and this is in the middle of the Pentagon. I said, let me go, let me get a cup of coffee, let me think for a little while. And says, all right. And I says, well, how long do you want some time? And I said, give me a couple hours. I'll see you back after lunch. And I said, just have another meeting, and I'm thinking I can figure something out. And so I figured it out.
God.
I figured out how to do it, and I've been working on it for like 2 years.
Holy shit.
And the stuff that I did had to do with supply chain. So I had to inject something into the supply chain, and then I had to use signals. And I had to use signals that were all around the earth that you couldn't really detect because there was so much of it. I can't talk about it very more than that. But so it's still a classified project, and it works.
Because of you.
Because of what I told him how to do it. I invented a whole nother system. And it was micro Doppler, nano, and some other stuff, and it was some really cool stuff. And I did it. And it's undetectable because it's using stuff it's everywhere. So you can't find it. I kept doing this stuff all the time. Oh, the motor racks. I was first lieutenant engineering guy, taking care of all the motors on an ARG. So we were on a ship, an amphibious ready group. And I was getting ready to go on an ARG, and this is just before Christmas. We were deploying like January 3rd or something. So it was during Christmas break during that time period. And so I'm loading the ship up, and I go on there, and I start talking about the motors and the racks that they have for the motors to be down on the well decks. On a ship, rocking and rolling in the ocean, and they build them out of these 2x8s and these 4x4s, and they build these things. And I was like, and they said, yeah, you have to be really careful with this and how you strap them down net. And it's really big oceans. They sometimes break, and your motors might end up in the well deck. So sometimes you got to put straps on them and strap the motors to the wall of the ship in order to make them not crash and wreck all your motors. And I was like, well, that's not a very good way to do it. I said, this is a 6-month deployment, and I don't want my motors to be all over the ship deck. And I was like, well, I'm going to make it out of steel. And so I went back there to the engineering place, and I said, I need a welder. And they said, well, we don't have that stuff. And I said, well, so I went out and I bought a welder. And I went out and bought all the steel, and I brought it all back to command. And I was there in the middle of winter from Christmas to New Year's welding, because I had to get it there before New Year's because the ship was being shut down and we go. So I had this drop dead time of this. I had to have the rack. So I welded up these giant motor racks, and I built them like this and like this. And so there was no things, and you didn't have to have up and downs, and it made it so you can grab the motors off really easy. Do you know what motor racks they're still using?
Those ones?
The ones I built in 1996. They use them today. And all the motor racks they build are built off of my dimensions and my build. And I bought my own I bought the own welder, and I bought all the metal because it was too fast. They couldn't do it. I got in trouble for that.
Yeah, I was just.
The command said you can't be going out there and spending your own money and doing stuff.
So whenever we had down situations at the VA, I'd be like, fucking, let me just, go out and buy it. No, you can't use your own money. I'm like, yeah, but this is going to be serving a part for our vets. We really, really need this. And it's only like, $150, $300. Like, come on. No, we're going to do that. I'm like, God damn it. Like, really? And being a contractor, of course, I can't go above their heads or else I'm going to get, canned like that. So I couldn't just say, screw it. I'm just going to do it and I'll deal with the write-up. Nope. I know what he means when he says, of course, his is far more important. Well, no, they were equally as important because we had a lot of documentation. This is one of the most fucked up things that I ever seen. We would get documentation, and I'm sure it's the same nationwide, but Xcel Energy here in Colorado, we would get letters back that were just highlighted, in blue, like, return to sender or impatience for some reason, or people who use their address as being at the VA, even though that wasn't their permanent address. We would get letters from Xcel Energy saying, the person on file has life-saving equipment within their home. However, we're going to be shutting off the power to said home, in the next 72 hours. This will affect any individual in this home who has some type of equipment that is, placed there that could potentially affect life-saving equipment. And these are people who did not have DNRs. Do not resuscitate. A lot of people will sign DNRs, and I teach their own, but yeah, I mean, to get a letter like that from from Xcel, to not even have the fucking heart because of a bill of $30-some, like, really? You're gonna shut off somebody's life-saving equipment because they can't afford $30 right now. It's just, oh my God. I could go on and on about that, but yeah.
Stuff for the team. I got in a whole bunch of trouble for it. And I told him, I said, but it's my auger and my motors. I don't want them breaking. I said, I don't care if I spend all that money. And then the captain was finally, all right, I'm done yelling here. Go see the supply officer and he'll write you a check. So he ended up paying me back for the stuff. But he yelled at me first.
Damn.
I was like, come on, Captain. Can't remember if that was, it wasn't Fitzgerald. It was just after him. I don't remember. But it was like, dude, if you have a problem and you have to invent something, when we were doing car interdictions, and I can talk about this one because it's not unclassified right now. So doing car interdictions, how do we interdict a car that's moving, going down a highway? We fly helicopters in the front and try to stop them. They go around and go out in the field. And it's hard to stop a car. We use the 50 cal. We try to shoot the engine out. When you shoot the engine out, the car is going 50, 60 miles an hour. It kills everybody. Because the car flips, everything else happens. We usually kill everybody if we try to stop a car going fast. And they're drawing all this stuff up on there. And this guy, Hondo, is drawn up there and trying to do the UAV, and he's trying to fly these things and trying to interdict these vehicles by UAV or something. I said, well, how are you getting in that car? How are you keeping up with them? What are you doing? I said, we're flying the little birds. I said, I've done this before. And I said, we want it to be something we carry in our gear, so it has to be 40 mic. It has to be something we can shoot at them. So I said, what you do is, and I started drawing on the board. And it took me about an hour to think of this project. And they've already been working on this one for like months, trying to figure out how to interdict these cars without killing everybody. And so they gave me about an hour, and I started drawing up on a dry erase board. And I said, do this. I said, we already carry them. And I said, plus we have the ones that have a lot of rounds on them. The 40 mic big one that has, and you can shoot like 4 or 5 rounds real quick. So, and they were like, well, you can't do that out of a helicopter. You can't interdict out of a helicopter. I said, give me a couple days. And so I went back and I got a helicopter and I flew up there with a 40 mic and I started shooting cars out of a helicopter. Because I know people. And I was at Nam Neck, so it was easy. So we're flying these helicopters. We're shooting cars out of the freaking helicopters, and I was shooting practice rounds. So it was the orange stuff, but it was still breaking the windshields. So it was doing stuff.
Yeah.
So I drew up on there. I said, basically, it's a 40 millimeter grenade. And I said, what you want to do is you want to put a hardened plastic cone in the front, and then you want to have where the explosive stuff was and all that. You want to have a real heavy lead or have something heavy, then have a projectile, but it has to be a tube. And it has to have sharp edges around the tube, and then a heavy thing. So that when a 40 millimeter grenade hits even steel, and you want to hit the roof of the car, don't hit the windshields, because then you can puncture through the roof of the car because of the inertia of it. It'll go right through because it's a hollow tube. It goes all the way through. Whatever you have inside of that tube will then disperse inside the car.
Holy
And you know what methyl ether mercaptan is?
No.
Nobody does. I do because I'm weird. And I said, you guys can put stuff inside of here and they're going to pull that car over real quick. They'll put the brakes on and everybody will get out. And as soon as you shoot it, you land in a helicopter, they all get out and you got them. You don't kill anybody.
Damn.
If it's not the right people, they're outside of the car and they have some issues for a little bit, but you clean them off and they have a little hole in the top of their car, you give them $100 and you go away because there's the wrong car. You're not killing everybody. That was 1 hour and they gave me a problem. There's about 10 other things I can say, but one was a little classified probably. But the other one's like, dude,
Keep
this
going.
is all easy stuff.
Keep going.
So
This is fascinating.
It was bunches of the Iron Man project.
I mean, this is some of the most brilliant stuff that.
Oh,
I mean,
man, I can tell you
this is
some
just another
classified
level,
ones, man.
Chris. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just nobody sitting across from me has come up with this kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, there's been like phenomenal, operators that have sat in that chair, but this is.
But none of those
this is
operators even know I
different.
did it.
This is different.
It was in the bowels of the Pentagon, down a lot of floors, and then deep, and they don't even know I did it.
Yeah.
The hostile forces tracking, targeting, locating the entire program for DoD wide was a budget of like it was almost $400 million.
So, before we go further, for many of you guys who not know, a lot of you guys do know who follow stuff like this, but after Iron Man 1, the very first Iron Man movie, the U.S. government actually looked into building Iron Man suits, and it was called the Iron Man program. He just referenced it, and he was one of the lead engineers on how to build an Iron Man suit. Now, I'm not going to give anything away because that's going to come up on part 4, but he will explain exactly what went into it, where they were at when he left the project, and why it's still classified to this day. We may get little tidbits here and there, but the real project still classified. So, hope you guys enjoyed this part 3. It's just starting, and again, we're only 3/4 of the way through here. So, again, I hope you guys continue to watch. I want to do each and every one of these episodes for about an hour. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any comments, questions, whatever, feel free to leave me a comment. If this is your first time here, I'm going to get more adamant about this. Please like, subscribe, do all the little things that you would do for other people who have said like and subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. So, until tomorrow when I upload the next one, you guys have a wonderful evening. You have a absolutely wonderful day tomorrow. Be safe. All these psychos out there with mass shootings and shit, it's just... But my best wishes and everything are with you and yours. So, take care. I'll be back. And I'm out.